तव कथामृतम् तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीडितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः।
ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. We are reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna and the conversation or events of 5th August 1882 in Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar's house, and we have read a humorous dialogue so that everybody has become, mind has become relaxed and attentive to what Sri Ramakrishna says. And at that point, we are going back one or two paras. At that point, Sri Ramakrishna's conversation now turned to the knowledge of Brahman, because that is the talk. So we go there. Up till that, everybody has become acquainted. What is the knowledge of Brahman? What is Brahman? The meaning of the word Brahman, normally, Shankara has said the, what you call that, etymological meaning of Brahman is that it is the greatest in all respects. That is the meaning. And then he says that it cannot be greatest in all respects unless it is all-knowing, all-potent, Srishti Sthiti Pralaya-karta of the world, and beyond everything, and Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Svabhav. These automatically become the meaning of the word Brahman. That is Brahman. And what is the knowledge of Brahman? Knowledge of Brahman does not mean that Brahman is like this. Knowledge of Brahman does not mean information about the nature of Brahman. We found the meaning of Brahman, but knowledge of Brahman means that Brahman is one without a second, Brahman is transcendent, immanent, and I have no separate existence than Brahman. This change of consciousness, world has no separate existence other than Brahman. I and the world both are unreal. Brahman alone is real. I and world appear real because Brahman is the reality at the back, and this which is reality at the back is expressing itself as I and the world. This, our consciousness today is that I am a Jiva, a living being, a conscious being, separate than others, separate than nature, and this is wrong knowledge. This is called ignorance. So knowledge of Brahman means our consciousness changes into consciousness of Brahman, which tells that I have no separate existence, world has no separate existence. Brahman is beyond everything and Brahman is everything. When our consciousness is changed into that, that is called knowledge of Brahman. And Sri Ramakrishna's conversation now turned to the knowledge of Brahman. Because that is his mission, that is his work, to make the whole world aware of knowledge of Brahman. To give this knowledge of Brahman to whoever can receive. And Vidyasagar being Vidyasagar, it is expected that he will be able to receive, and all the friends who have gathered there will at least have an impression of that, and they may struggle for that. So the master says, Brahman is beyond Vidya and Avidya, knowledge and ignorance. So this you have to know. Vidya means knowledge, and Brahman is beyond knowledge. So what does it mean? What is knowledge, Vidya, and what is beyond Vidya? Now we read in the Thakur asked Master Master how many annas I have. And there we have read knowledge according to the Gita 13th chapter is the spiritual evolution. And next sentence is Brahman is beyond Maya, the illusion of duality. So this will explain something. It is Sri Ramakrishna's speciality that Maya, which is illusion of duality. Duality, I and the world. This is an illusion. And that is called Maya. Now within this illusion of duality, there are certain things which take our mind higher towards Brahman. That according to Thakur is Vidya. And there are certain things in this world which take us our mind down and down. That is also Vidya. In 7th chapter of the Gita, it is termed as Apara Prakriti and Para Prakriti. All the physical and mental world is Apara Prakriti. And that consciousness is the Para Prakriti. So that very thing becomes Vidya here. That with the help of which mind rises above is Vidya. Now this includes, let us think what it includes according to that 13th chapter. First of all, it includes, according to Sri Ramakrishna, renunciation, vairagya. This world is unreal, we just now have heard. So this is discrimination. And based on that discrimination, if the character is changed, if the tendencies of mind are changed, that is called vairagya. And so, if we have knowledge of Brahman, if you have Vidya, if you are cultivating that Vidya, then the first change in man is called vairagya or renunciation. Second thing is, we may count that second, he gains control over his physical and mental personality. Third thing is that he feels attracted to the reality called bhakti. No, he may do proper karma, this and that, he may be able to meditate. But in a simple way, these three constitute Vidya. Renunciation, control, and attraction for God. And this series ends in I am identified with Brahman or Aham Brahmasmi. And Aham Brahmasmi is usually called knowledge. So, renunciation, control, devotion, leading to the feeling that I am Brahman, this whole thing is called Vidya. And Brahman is beyond Vidya means the I drops down finally, and only Brahman, one without a second, is the experience. Without the experiencer, that is called beyond Vidya. Beyond Vidya means beyond all the things which are called knowledge, ending in Aham Brahmasmi, and beyond that means Aham does not remain, Aham goes away, and experience remains. So this beyond Aham Brahmasmi, that is called beyond Vidya. Now, obviously, it is beyond Avidya. All the things which take us down, Brahman is beyond them. That is obvious. So beyond knowledge and ignorance, it means that intellectual awareness of Brahman also can be included in ignorance. So Brahman is beyond that. And Vidya and Avidya, that is knowledge and ignorance. And beyond Maya, the illusion of duality. The world consists of the illusory duality of knowledge and ignorance. That means this Maya, this world is Maya. World consists of those elements which takes our mind higher, and world contains those elements which take us our mind lower. Illusory, both are illusory. Both are not real. Brahman alone is real. But this is the difference. It contains, Thakur has come to that. It contains knowledge and devotion. So within knowledge, knowledge. Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam in 13th chapter. And devotion. And also means the world has also attachment to woman and gold. Now the things take us lower means sadhaishana, sadhanaishana. Once we have discussed this. All the man's desires, all the desires of man can be resolved into three desires. The desire for a wife or son, the desire for wealth, and the desire for different higher spheres of enjoyment. Now, wealth. Then the Rishi tells us in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, three forms are there, but actually they can be reduced to two. Desire for enjoyment and desire for means of enjoyment. So desire for enjoyment include all sorts of wife and son and heaven. Both are desires for enjoyment. And to attain this, we require wealth, physical and divine. That means by physical wealth, we get enjoyment in this world. And by divine wealth, we know those means by which we go to heaven. Now, this Sri Ramakrishna's words, more concrete, women, that is the desire for enjoyment. Mind it, we are talking to men. So the corresponding one has to understand. All the end of all desires is desire for sex. end. All Indriyas, mind, everything becomes fully engrossed in that. So that is what Thakur tells. And to man, it is represented by Kamini, a woman who induces lust in man. And Kanchan is the wealth. All wealth in those days was in animals, but now all wealth is in gold. So this is Thakur's direct expression of Sadhaishana and Sadhaneshana. Kamini, Kanchan. So these are the things which are avidya. These are the things which take man down. Bhagavan Buddha says, Trishna is what takes man down. So this is that desire. Righteousness and unrighteousness, that Vidya and Avidya equivalent. If you do good things, you will get good result. Or if your conduct is good, then it is Vidya. And if your conduct is bad, full of desires, it is Avidya. Good and evil, in the simplest language, it is called good and evil. Good is, from all this we understand, good is defined as that which takes you to God. Evil is defined as that which lowers you down. But Brahman is unattached to these. Now remember Brahman. It is one without a second. It is unattached to this because they are both in the world and Brahman is beyond the world. So unattached. Even Brahman may be immanent, but even then it is not polluted by these. How good and evil apply to the jiva, the individual soul. So this Vidya and Avidya is connected with this sadhak. And in relation to sadhak only, we define those desires. So Vidya and Avidya, good and evil, apply to the jiva, the individual soul, as do righteousness and unrighteousness. So all this Vidya and Avidya is for the individual souls, whose consciousness is that he is an individual soul. But Brahman is not at all affected by them. Brahman we see as individual soul, but that is not its real nature. So it is not affected by our Vidya and Avidya. Brahman is not affected. Beyond. And for this he gives some examples. One may read the Bhagavata by the light of a lamp, and another may commit a forgery by that very light. But the lamp is unaffected. So this is the example. Lamp represents consciousness. And man is conscious, so he does bad. Man is conscious, so he goes up. Another example, the sun sheds its light on the wicked as well as on the virtuous, but is not polluted by the wickedness or the virtuous man. You may ask, how? So Thakur himself is anticipating the questions which come in the mind and reply. You may ask, how then can one explain misery and sin and unhappiness? Brahman is beyond everything. and Brahman is the reality of the world, then how can you explain this? How they are replaced? The answer is that these apply only to the Jiva. So long as there is a consciousness, I am a Jiva, then all these things apply. Brahman is unaffected by them because it is the reality one without a second. Unless there is a duality, there is no bad. There may be Vidya in duality, but all the bad things are in duality only. Example, there is poison in a snake, but though others may die if bitten by it, the snake itself is not affected by the poison. So a beautiful example, Parishwara. Now, all this leads to the real nature of Brahman. That is Thakur's way. He has described Brahman, and now he will tell the real nature of Brahman. What Brahman is cannot be described. Description requires knowledge by senses or by mind of objects. Of objects in the illusory world of duality. The illusory world of duality means subjects and objects. I, you, he, she, it, the perceivers, and objects to perceive. And Brahman is not one of the objects. Brahman is not subject also in this ordinary sense. Brahman is the reality of the subject and the reality of the object, and it is itself subject-objectless reality. So, to describe, we have to know it as an object, and we cannot. So, how can we speak about it? So, Brahman cannot be described. It is not something abstract and cannot be described. The meaning is this: it is beyond duality. All things in the world, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Tantras, the 6 systems of philosophy have been defiled. Defiled means like food that has been touched by the tongue. Here again, English translation is there. But all these are Indian ideas, mind you. In the West, nobody minds if food is touched by the tongue. In India also, Punjab, Sindh, they have very least respect for this touching. But other Indians, majority of the Indians take them to be defiled. Touched by the tongue, then we cannot use it. Other person. But they have been by the tongue, or they have been read or uttered by the tongue. Yes. So they describe Brahman, but they cannot describe Brahman because they are uttered by tongue. That means they come within the duality. Only one thing has not been defined in this way, and that is Brahman. Because it is beyond description, so it has never come out of the mouth of a man. No one has ever been able to say what Brahman is. Now, this is something not thought of by Vidyasagar. And he likes it very much. He learns, and that is why Thakur has told all this. Others may learn. You see, there are two things in school. The teacher asks generally the brightest, why have you understood? And when he says, I have understood, others also understand. That is the technique of teacher. So when Vidyasagar will express surprise and I have liked it, others also will like it. So Vidyasagar says to his friends, oh, that is a remarkable statement. I have learned something new today. So this he had never thought of. That Brahman is not an object. We have seen Master Masha's description of Vidyasagar. I will not talk of God because I do not know his nature. But do not know his nature is a different thing. And his nature is such that it is beyond words. It is nature. Master. Now a story to explain this thing. They accepted. So they should be further impressed by that. A man had two sons. The father sent them to a preceptor to learn the knowledge of Brahman. For that purpose only is sent, not secular knowledge. After a few years, they returned from their preceptor's house and bowed low before their father. Wanting to measure the depth of their knowledge of Brahman, he first questioned the older of the two boys. My child, he said, you have studied all the scriptures. Now tell me, what is the nature of Brahman? One additional point we are getting in this. He sent them for getting the knowledge of Brahman and is asking, as a taken for granted, you have learned all scriptures. So scriptures and the teacher only will tell us the knowledge of Brahman. You have studied all the scriptures, now tell me what is the nature of Brahman. The boy began to explain Brahman by reciting various texts from the Vedas. The father did not say anything. Then he asked the younger son the same question. Did not say anything means until he gets something to compare, he is not going to comment. And the answer should be hidden from the junior. Same question. But the boy remained silent and stood with his eyes down, cast down. Eyes cast down means suggests that Brahman is beyond description. The father was pleased and said to him, my child, you have understood a little of Brahman. A little means Brahman realization will shine on his face, but at least you have understood. When it cannot be expressed in what it is, cannot be expressed in words. Now this point is so important. Intellectual or Brahman as information and knowledge of Brahman. Men often think they have understood Brahman fully. That Kenopanishad tells Aham Brahmasmi also is not full. Now here Thakur tells with a beautiful anecdote or incident in the world which we see. And little imaginary thing added into it. Once an ant went to a hill of sugar.
Which mantra in Kenopanishad?
Huh?
Kenopanishad, which mantra?
We read that in Upadesh Sastra, we read that. Huh? Yeah. And the teacher explains Brahman in the best possible way by telling that it is not the object of worship, but that which makes you worship. So this resulted in the Shishya understanding that I am not different from Brahman. And he thought that I have known Brahman. He did not say anything, but the teacher understood that he is not asking a question. So he said, my boy, if you think you have known Brahman fully, I tell you, you have known Brahman little. And you should think about it. That is the thing. Thakur tells with a worldly anecdote. Once an ant went to a hill of sugar. One grain filled its stomach. Taking another grain in its mouth, it started homeward. That is what all the ants do. One eaten and one for storage. On its way, it thought, next time I shall carry home the whole hill. It is able to carry one grain, but think that it will carry the whole hill. This is what man feels. That is the way shallow minds think. Shallow minds. They don't know that Brahman is beyond man, one's words and thought. Mind cannot reach there because mind deals in duality. It cannot reach there. And when mind cannot reach, words cannot reach. However great a man may be, how much can he know of Brahman? Its receptacle may be big. He may understand to a great extent, but how much that will be? Shukadeva and sages like him may have been big ants, but even they could carry at the most 8 or 10 grains of sugar. So containing the same thing, full knowledge of Brahman. It is said that only Shiva has. Because the mind is satisfied. Mind is changed. And they give to people. So 7, 8 grains they have. Shukadeva and like him. As far what has been said in the Vedas and the Puranas, do you know what it is like? All these Vedantic ideas, Thakur tells in simple language. In Vedanta, we met with Tatastha Lakshan and Swarup Lakshan. Meaning is that standing near the ocean, you tell about the ocean, Tatastha. And Swarup, you go inside the sea and explain. So Thakur says, as far what has been said in the Vedas and Puranas, do you know what it is like? Suppose a man has seen the ocean and somebody asks him, well, what is the ocean like? The first man opens his mouth as wide as he can and says, idea of infinity, as wide as he can, and says, what a sight, what tremendous waves and sounds. The description of Brahman in the sacred books is like that. It is said in the Vedas that Brahman is of the nature of bliss. It is Satchit Ananda. So Satchit Ananda also is the Tatastha Lakshan. The Swarup Lakshan will always be not this, not this. But one thing, in the Satchidananda, he is stretching importance on bliss. Because when the unity with Brahman is felt, even superior to consciousness is bliss. Anandamaya Kosha comes after Vijnanamaya Kosha. Understood? Bliss, it is Satchidananda. Shuka and other sages stood on the shore of this ocean of Brahman and saw and touched the water. Saw, touched the water. According to one school of thought, they never plunge into it. According to one school, Thakur mentions this to compare with something. Otherwise, if they are realized, they are realized. Clear? According, those who do cannot come back to the world again. Now, this is about ordinary jivas. If they enter Nirvikal Samadhi, they cannot come back again. So some people think that Shukdeva just touched it in order to teach people. In Samadhi, one attains the knowledge of Brahman. So it cannot be described by the mind or in the, words. Samadhi means when I is lost. When I is lost, one attains the knowledge of Brahman. One realizes Brahman. So knowledge of Brahman means realization. What is the realization? Brahman today is an idea in our mind. And when we experience Brahman, then it becomes real for us. So, making the idea real is called realization. Understood? In that state, reasoning stops altogether. Reasoning requires duality, and man becomes mute because tongue stops. He has no power to describe the nature of Brahman. For describing, you have to come down sufficiently. Example. Beautiful example. Once a salt doll went to measure the depth of the ocean. Salt doll of ocean, because salt comes from the ocean itself. It is not different. Let's become a doll. If it goes to ocean, it will again become the salt. It is salt to me. Once a salt doll because we are conceiving prana in there. Once a salt doll went to measure the depth of the ocean, all laughed. They understood already. It wanted to tell others how deep the water was, but this it could never do. For no sooner did it get into the water than it melted. And better, Rubi Thakur always used to say melted. But scientifically, Vincent said dissolved. In our normal language, we use melted for a solid to become liquid. And this process is called dissolved. Now, who was there to report the ocean's depth? So I does not remain. A devotee. Question. Actual question. Not thought of by Thakur himself. A devotee. Suppose a man has obtained the knowledge of Brahman. Suppose, in Samadhi. Doesn't he speak anymore? So Thakur took the example sort of. And before that he has said ordinary man. Shukdeva is different. So the question comes. Are all people like that? Doesn't he speak anymore? Master. No, Shukdeva is already gone. So he takes another example. Shankaracharya retained the ego of knowledge in order to teach others. Now this retained ego, lot of controversies have come on that. Some Shankarites think Thakur is belittling Shankar. But what is the main meaning of retained? After Nirvikal Samadhi, mind you. So Shukadeva Shankaracharya, they are people who can come down. Others get melted. So first thing, by mentioning Shankaracharya, Thakur tells that there are some people who can come back. Now come back means to feel I. But this I is different from our I. This I is first negated, then illumined. So this I knows that I am not real. That is a big I. And this is called the I of knowledge because it knows that it is not there. The other I, Thakur will say, is I of devotion. It does not think I am real or unreal. It feels attraction for God. Having merged in God, it comes back and feels attraction for God. So, retain means after realization, a semblance of I is there. When not in samadhi, then always there is an I. After the vision of Brahman, a man becomes silent. Even if he does not die, he becomes silent. But he wants to teach others. He reasons about it as long as he has not realized it. So all the tarkas are limited. One can reason it only till one has not realized. Then one becomes silent. He reasons about it as long as he has not realized it. If you heat butter in a pan on the stove, it makes a sizzling sound as long as the water it contains has not dried up. Beautiful example for talking while doing sadhana. But when no trace of water is left, the clarified butter makes no sound. But he is going to give the example of Shankaracharya. So, if you put an uncooked cake of flour in that butter, so long a description, because cake, because our idea of roti, luchi, puri, the Britishers or English knowing people do not know. So this is the description. Roti is different, but first it is prepared and put in that ghee to ripen. So, if you put an uncooked cake of flour in that butter, it sizzles again. Sizzles means make that sound. But after the cake is cooked, all sound stops. So, Shankaracharya teaches somebody. And if he realizes, then he stops. Just so, a man established in samadhi comes down to the relative plane of consciousness in order to teach others, and then he talks about God. Thakur himself is doing that. He has come back and he is doing that. Example after example, something man will catch. The bee buzzes as long as it is not sitting on a flower. It becomes silent when it begins to sip the honey. That means in the final stages of sadhana also, after the experience has come, man becomes silent. But sometimes, intoxicated with the honey, it buzzes again. Beautiful example for different shades. This is not teaching others, but that joy makes the sound. Another example, an empty pitcher makes a gurgling sound when it is dipped in water. When it fills up, it becomes silent. All laugh. All laugh means this is a very common experience which they could understand and gurgle. But if the water is poured from it into another pitcher, then you will hear the sound again. Here also is laughter. So very practical example. When it gives to other, the sound comes. Because it is through words that he has to convey. The rishis of old attained the knowledge of Brahman. One cannot have this so long as. So Vedas have come to us. So that means they have realized and they have come down. One cannot have this so long as there is the slightest trace of worldliness. So rishis are rishis. So we said that renunciation, control, attraction for God. So unless renunciation is there, it has not realized at all. In a sabha, a few years back, the main speaker said, we should not expect any mysterious experience. You cannot reach God by any all means. You will reach God only by Shankar Siddhanta. By Siddhanta you will reach. We already heard many times, Shat Darshanas and all that cannot reach you. Vedas and Puranas. So it is foolishness. And I fought with the organizer that I want to speak again. And that man quoted Vivekananda Unlucky for him. I said 108 shlokas in Vivekananda tell us about meditation, samadhi, experience. And without mystic experience we realize. Only by intellectual understanding. The rishis of old attained the knowledge of Brahman. One cannot have this so long as there is the slightest trace of worldliness. How hard the rishis labored. So, these are all talks, appear very simple, but it requires tremendous sadhana. How hard the rishis labored. Early in the morning, they would go away from the hermitage and would spend the whole day in the solitude meditating on Brahman. And Thakur sees clearly what the rishis have done. At night, they would return to the hermitage and eat a little fruit or roots. That's all. They kept their minds aloof from the objects of sight, hearing, touch, and other things of a worldly nature. Only thus did they realize Brahman as their own inner consciousness. So realize Brahman as their own inner consciousness. And this was the line. We just read the Vedas. But this is how the Vedas have come. So both the process of reaching and then capacity to come back, all that is described through the rishis. We would not have got the Vedas at all if the rishis were not there. But a but has come. But means rishis of old. So now something has changed. Not that we cannot, but our path may have become still harder. Or let us see. But in the Kali Yuga, this is a relative term. Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means in English it is translated as Iron Age. People have more of tamogun, inertia. That is Kali Yuga. Men being totally dependent on food for life. So he has described the rishis. They are going away without any breakfast or lunch. And after coming back, just a fruit or root and sleep. So this is not possible in the modern age. But in the Kali Yuga, man being totally dependent on food for life cannot altogether shake off the idea that he is the body. Why food is required to the body. And we cannot give up fully the idea that we are the body, which is an essential for Rishi life. Now this Thakur is coming to a different topic, that there are many people who say, I am Brahmasmi. To them Thakur is telling, no, you have not realized it. In this state of the mind, it is not proper for him to say, I am he. I am his Soham. He, I am. When a man does all sorts of worldly things, he should not say, I am Brahman. What does he mean? All sorts of things? He is hinting at sex. When he is going so down, how can he talk of this? Those who cannot give up attachment to worldly things and who find no means to shake off the feelings of I, that's very clear. Objects and I itself. I lives with objects. So that is the food. Should rather change, then that has to be wavered. So change the nature of I. Should rather cherish the idea I am God's servant, I am his devotee. To the ideas he is giving. Das Bhav. This I is servant. That means God's will carried out through this I. I am a devotee. I don't know. I am attracted to God. I worship God. That will reduce my I. That will remove my I finally. Or I am not the doer. God is the doer. This will take me up. I am his devotee. One can also realize God by following the path of devotion. So, new thing has come. Neti is leading to this. But if there is an attraction for God, that will change our consciousness. So that also is possible. So hearing this, we should not be afraid that, oh, I don't have knowledge. If you feel love for God, attraction for God, then you will get absorbed in God. Knowledge will automatically come. The Jnani gives up his identification. Now a new term Thakur has brought from the Upanishads and the Gita. The Jnani gives up his identification with worldly things, discriminating not this, not this. Only then can he realize Brahman. It is like reaching the roof of a house by leaving the steps behind one by one. One by one. Gross, subtle and causal like that. But the Vijnani, what is the Vijnani? After experiencing, he has come back. And he sees that God has become all. That is the Vijnani. But the Vijnani, who is more intimately acquainted with Brahman, more intimately means he is all, he knows that he is all. realizes something more. He realizes that the steps are made of the same materials as the roof, bricks, lime, and brick dust. That which is realized intuitively as Brahman, intuitively means I is lost. Through the eliminating process of not this, is then found to have become the universe and all its living beings, both objects and subjects, both. The Vijnani sees that the reality which is Nirguna is beyond quality, beyond Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, without attributes, is also Saguna with attributes. A man cannot live on the roof a long time, so mind cannot remain there. Knowledge has come. So even if the mind comes down, knowledge is there. He comes down again. Those who realize Brahman is in Samadhi come down also and find that it is Brahman that has become. So the question is asked either they talks or not, comes back or not. That explanation is going on. Also and find that it is Brahman that has become the universe and its living beings. In the musical scale, there are the notes Saregama Pada Ni. Now this is the Indian names of those notes. In the Western music also there are names, and actual names are very different. Even Saregama is not the actual name. So in English, the short forms of the names are, Do, Le, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Si. These are the 7 notes. Otherwise, this lower, higher, lot of descriptions are there. But the short is this. But one cannot keep one's voice on Ni a long time. The ego does not vanish altogether. In Samadhi it vanishes, but it comes back as illumined ego. The man coming down from Samadhi perceives that it is Brahman that has become the ego, the universe, and all living beings. I, universe, and like me, everybody. This is known as Vijnana. So he has clearly made that after coming back, one realizes God himself is all, that is Vijnana. So, tomorrow. Om Tava Kathāmritam Tapta Jivanam Kaviviridhitam Kalmashāpaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadaatatam Bhuvi Grunanti Ye Bhurida Jana Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.